Hurricane Wilma, a Category 3 storm, the speed now moving up to 125 miles an hour. Good morning, everyone. I'm Richard Lemus.
I'm Natalie. So, Lise, Wilma strengthening just slightly. Even still, we are watching her every move.
You're watching Local 10 News, Tracking Wilma.
Welcome back to our continuing coverage, Tracking Wilma. We are just nearing the 4 o'clock hour now. I'm Lori Jennings, along with Christy Kruger.
And we are really beginning to see the weather, I wouldn't want to say deteriorate, but we are beginning to see some rain coming through in the Keys, and we understand that things are looking a bit ominous as well on the west coast of Florida over in Naples.
Hurricane Wilma. For continuing coverage, keep it on 4. Now live, this is a special edition of CBS 4 News, Tracking Hurricane Wilma.
We welcome you back to our continuing coverage. I'm Rob Hanrahan along with Maggie Rodriguez. It is 9 o'clock and the storm is getting closer and closer at this point.
A lot of our reporters unbelievably told us that they're finding people still in denial that Hurricane Wilma is a serious threat to South Florida. Let's check in with Brian Norcross in Weather Control. Give us a reality check, please, Brian.
All right, the headline at this hour, Maggie and Rob, is the word from the National Hurricane Center that the Air Force Reserve Unit hurricane hunters out there now are saying that Wilma is nearing Category 3 strength, is the way very near Category 3 strength.
NBC6 Weather Plus on Atlantic Broadband Digital Channel 941.
All right, the torch has been passed, I understand, in Key West.
Tom Yamas is now standing by with the very latest. And Tom, as you turn around, you can see what we've been talking about all day, people just moseying around like it's any other day down there.
That's right, guys. Just behind me here on Duval Street, you can see many of the Key West conchs hanging out. You can actually see a lot of traffic, too. And this is not traffic leaving Key West. This is traffic just driving down Duval Street, looking around to see what's going on. Now, people who want to evacuate only have about 3 to 4 hours left because that's when the tropical storm winds should start hitting Key West. Right now, the airport has shut down, and so has the bus station. So you only have about 3 to 4 hours if you're still in Key West. Now, today they evacuated the...
WESH 2 News at 11 starts right now.
Hurricane Wilma has left parts of Mexico in tatters. Now thousands in Florida have to leave as hurricane warnings go up along the coast. Hello, I'm Tom Shedden for Raul Martinez. We have a record hurricane season now because Tropical Storm Alpha is out there too. We have team coverage. WESH 2 is the only station with reporters on both coasts of Florida.
But we start with northwest by late tomorrow afternoon. So the wind is going to shift 180 degrees in 24 hours here in South Florida. 7-day forecast, I guess here's the only good news we have is tomorrow is a hurricane. The next day is going to be fall. You will never see a more distinct dividing line between one world and another world of weather here in South Florida. You will never see anything that looks quite like that. Hurricane one day, and you've got a very cool day the next day with a low of 55. Wednesday morning, a low of 59. Thursday, 63. So, and the high temperature is only in the 70s. So it looks like it is definitely going to bring in much cooler air. Because the storm is so strong, it's just going to pull that air down. A normal cold front coming through wouldn't do that, but you've got a hurricane, and you've got the circulation around it, just taking air that's in northern Florida and moving it down here within a couple of hours. So we definitely have a big change, which is going to be probably a good thing. If we lose our power, we'll be able to at least live in our homes comfortably. If you got a generator, you'll be able to run a couple of lights, maybe a refrigerator, and looks like that's the only good news that we have on this. But let's hope that the hurricane is not that bad, and then we'll enjoy fall a little bit better. Christy.
Oh, that'd be great.
Yeah.
And Dom, we've been wondering about, so many of our viewers
have 954-622-6621. Again, 954-622-6621. Our hurricane helpline here at NBC6. Our staffers volunteering to help out, to answer your questions, to direct you to help where they can. And again, a reminder this night that there are also answer centers set up in Miami-Dade and Broward counties. We'll get those numbers back to you a little bit later in our continuing coverage of Wilma. But right now, we cannot emphasize enough. Stay safe at home, wherever you've decided to put up for the night and really on through midday tomorrow. And please, please remember that even when the storm passes, and it's going to be a long time for that, and you'll want to get your all clear from people like John Gerard and the folks at the National Hurricane Center, but even when there's the all clear, there's the aftermath, down power lines and trees. We've seen injuries from that, deaths in the past. You have to keep your guard up. Many of the injuries happen after the storm. And one more thing worth noting, we know so many of you will pull out those generators you went and bought over the past many months or the past year or two. We've had to report throughout this hurricane season, each time a hurricane struck, as you look at our satellite loop and the approach of Wilma, on deaths from carbon monoxide poisoning. You absolutely cannot have that in any type of enclosed space whatsoever. To most of you hearing me say that, that seems elementary, but unfortunately we've had to report on deaths because of carbon monoxide poisoning related to the use of generators indoors or in semi-enclosed spaces. That is absolutely a cardinal rule. It must be in a completely open area for proper ventilation. So once again, we'll all go through Hurricane Wilma together. Our WB viewers who we've been simulcasting with, we say so long to, but again, 87.7 on your FM dial for coverage. Wind power goes out, and I say wind because we know it's inevitable, and our continuing coverage here on NBC6 as you look at Hurricane Wilma drawing ever closer to the Florida Peninsula.
Touching upon the points that we've all been reiterating this morning, obviously this is the time to stay inside. The storm is here in full force at this point. We're seeing its effects in Dade and Broward County. It's a good time to get you all up to date as to what's going on. As far as schools are concerned, parents would be interested in knowing that school is out again tomorrow in Dade and Broward counties.
Yes, that very important information. Also, we want to keep you up to date. Obviously, there are power outages throughout both Dade and Broward County. FP&L just releasing this following number: 542,458 customers in both Dade and in Broward are without power. We want to remind you, though, if you've lost power, you could always tune in to us. We are simulcasting for just about an hour now on 97.3 The Coast and also on 93 Rock. Christine mentioned a very good point. Stay indoors, but if you happen to have a good vantage point, maybe outside one of your windows, or if you're in one of those high rises and have a good vantage point, we want to urge you to go ahead and send a picture of some kind of damage or whatever the situation may be like outside your residence at wilma@WSVN.com. Again, we urge you to keep it safe. We don't by any means want you to go outside, but send us your picture, tell us your name and also the location of where this picture is, so we can go ahead and give you a picture view, if you will, of the damage that's going on throughout all of South Florida.
If you are watching these pictures, and as you well know, Wilma made landfall shortly after 6 o'clock this morning, about 22 miles south of Naples, and you are looking at this now and you were saying, how is this possible? I mean, it's not coming directly toward us. It made landfall far from. This is what the forecasters have been talking about, and this is why they talk about that specific line. This is why they talk about the cone, and this is why they talk about the feeder bands and the winds. And what we're seeing right now is some really, really nasty weather. Phil, I know that you had mentioned a couple of days ago and well into today the tornadic activity that this particular hurricane would spawn because it was interacting with that cold front. Is that still the case, Phil? Do we still have to watch out for those?
Absolutely. We are under a tornado watch for most of the day today. This is a very dangerous system. There's a lot of instability in the atmosphere, but I really want to talk right now to the folks in western Miami-Dade and Broward counties. You guys are going right now through the very worst that this system has to offer. This is the eastern edge of the eye wall that is now going through the area, and the radar is showing a wide swath of very red and intense color that is moving up right now over northwestern Miami-Dade counties, Opelika, Hialeah, and then moving into southern portions of Broward County, especially right now moving up I-75 into Miramar, Pembroke Pines, Weston getting pummeled, Davie, shortly sunrise, if not already, into the thick of that very, very strong area of rainfall, sheets of rain, winds of up to around 100 miles per hour. That is the eastern edge of the eye wall.
And Phil, we're just getting this new video coming out of Everglades City.
Yeah, take a look at that. I mean, when things are definitely the trees, the water, but things are flying around at this point. It's really bad. When we talk about Everglades City, we always think not only of the people, but of the animals. You know, there's a big wildlife population in that area, and we always, you know, wonder about that because obviously it's not the type of pet that you bring inside. It's the type of pet that's in the wild and is out there and sometimes cannot take refuge in the case of a storm like this.
From Everglades City, let's go ahead and bring it closer to where we're at right now. WSVN Studios located in North Bay Village. We are really hearing it come down hard on our roof here on the studio. We take you out back. Look at that. 7's Alita Loresca, just a couple of feet away from the seawall. Alita, conditions out there?
Richard, they have not gotten any better since the last time you guys checked in with me. We have been fighting these winds for a little over a couple of hours now, but within the last hour they have gotten really, really bad. And you guys are talking about hearing it. Imagine hearing it from outside. You can just hear the roar of wind. We've seen a palm tree out here topple down. We've seen all this debris collect near the seawall, and the seawall, you can see, has basically flooded within the last couple of hours or so.
Alita, I know you said it just a short while ago, and we've been talking about it, how in this particular storm you don't have to go far to look at the damage. You've been out there, out back, during numerous storms, and never have we seen you like this.
No, this is the worst by far. With Katrina, I never had to really seek safe harbor. A couple times here, I've had to. Are you okay, Ronnie? Hold on, guys. Okay, a couple of times I've had to seek safe harbor because the fact the winds have gotten so bad. And as I told you earlier, we are being protected right now by the WSVN building that is shielding some of the winds, but the winds are so strong and it's such a large wind field that it really doesn't matter that the building is... Hold on. The building is in front of us. I'm okay. So you can see the strong winds continuing. I've got Ludner here. Don't worry, guys. I know you guys worry about me inside, but I'm okay. Strong winds, battering waves, and it's continuous. It'll stop briefly, and then another strong wind will come up over the building, it feels like, continue to push me toward the bay. So the winds are coming up, as Phil mentioned, toward like the northwest, right, pushing me toward the southeast and so.
Alita, it's really important for us to know that you are safe, and right now, because we know that so many people are without power, and most people are listening to us rather than watching us on the radio. And I do want to mention really quickly those stations that we are simulcasting on: 93.1 FM, 105.1 FM, 99.1 FM, and 97.3 FM, the coast. Again, more importantly is it for you to be safe, because more than likely people aren't seeing you anyways, they're hearing. And what we want...
All right, I'm actually going to pick it up here, Phil. If we can bring Rosh back in, I have a question for him.
I lost my hat.
All right, Rosh lost his hat. Okay, sorry about that, Rosh.
Go ahead.
Do you need some time to retrieve it there? Can you do without?
No, it's gone. It's down the road.
All right, well, I guess that's proof of just how strong those winds are. You mentioned before that the streets are pretty empty, which is certainly a good sign. But
Aventura. I understand that we have a live report ready from Fort Lauderdale. Let's go in and take a look and see. Oh, it's Luann. Good morning, Luann. I see that things are starting to deteriorate out there. What is going on right now for you?
Winds are so strong I can barely hear you, but things are really getting bad here on Fort Lauderdale Beach. We've clocked gusts nearing 50 miles per hour here. I will just hold this out. I can't even look in the direction of the beach because the sand, you can see, is just coming in horizontal now, right off the beach. Very windy. Not as much rain as we saw before. I think most of the water is coming from the ocean, but these winds are unbelievable. I've never seen anything like it. Can you see what it's saying on there, Calvin? It's been going kind of in spurts, but it's not as, right now it's not as bad as it has been in the past. But come out here in the street. I wanted to show you just the concern out here is beach erosion, and you can see the sand is up here on the boulevard. We have several inches, I would say a good 3-4 inches of sand already up here, and this does not appear to be ending anytime soon. We have a lot of debris out here in the street already. You know, all the power is out here. Take a look around. It's black. Fort Lauderdale is completely black. About 15 minutes ago, all of the power went out. And you can see in some of the buildings there are lights. I believe those are probably on by generator, emergency lights in the hallway of those buildings. But we've been seeing a lot of lightning off the shore here east of us. Appears to be a lot of lightning moving in this direction, but we haven't seen cars come by in quite some time. Earlier we saw some police vehicles and some fire vehicles, but even they have left. No one is on the street. There's one truck here that looks like one police car at least is still out here, but the winds are just picking up very strong, and you know, I think a lot of people are heeding those warnings and staying inside. I don't see why anyone would want to be out here in this. It almost looks like a sandstorm that you would see in the desert. That's just how much sand is coming up from the beach. So very obvious that public works crews are going to have their work cut out for them this afternoon. They'll probably bring out the bulldozers like they did after Rita and Katrina to get all this sand back on the beach. But that's the very latest from Fort Lauderdale. I'm Luann Sorrell. Back to you guys.
Last time that during Hurricane Katrina, we remember that sand made its way a good 2 blocks away from where you're standing now, right onto Las Olas. Give us an update again on the sand.
Yeah, you know, this is Las Olas right here, and it's really hard to see. Before the lights went out, you could see, we were showing you that the wind was blowing the sand at least several blocks down here. And now you can't see, but the sand is really deep already right here on A1A. So they're going to have the same problem. It's at least going down a good 2-3 blocks here. It's like a straight shot getting blown down. Take a look at the palm trees. That can kind of give you some indication of just how strong the wind is, and that tells you how far that sand is going. It is very strong. I would guess gusts of like 50, 55 miles per hour. It's getting worse, and as Phil was saying, we can expect it to get even worse as the morning progresses.
Luann, thanks so much for that live report out of Fort Lauderdale. We want to take a moment to update you now at the top of the hour. Christine Cruz along with Richard Lemus and Chief Meteorologist Phil Farrow here, watching Wilma very closely. As we told you just a short while ago, the storm has now made landfall. It did so about 22 miles south of Naples.
It will continue to get worse. There's plenty of heavy rain just to the southwest of you in Deerfield Beach, Rosh, and it should be getting worse. Please be very careful. There are some very strong feeder bands very close to the eye wall that will be coming across the Broward County metropolitan area, and you will be seeing those very shortly.
Bill, I remember you mentioning when everyone was talking about southwest Florida that Broward County could definitely be affected by the storm, and we heard it from Sheriff Ken Jenny yesterday. He said that he didn't think that Broward had seen anything like this in 60 years. We were out here for Hurricane Katrina, which seemed like it lasted for a half hour in total. This hurricane just gets progressively worse here.
And it will for the next hour or two. This is probably the worst of the system as it makes its way across. You will be seeing the eastern edge of the eye wall. I would safely say in about another hour or two, the system is moving by pretty quickly, Rosh. So please be careful. The winds are going to get even stronger. The rain is going to get heavier. Everything is starting to move from the south to the north as the system itself moves towards the ocean.
If you can hear me, just a message, because give me a moment here. The message for people, if you're thinking about getting on the roadways here, it is extremely dangerous. Even in our location here, the reason we're not standing over there is because there's debris that's flying around. There was, we mentioned to you in the last half hour, there was several large dumpsters that overturned that had aluminum in it, and it was flying around. Add to that some electrical wires, which are down. When the eye came through during Hurricane Katrina, I know a lot of people came out here to the pier in Deerfield Beach to try to take a look at what was going on. If you decide to do that today, you are extremely foolish. At 3 a.m. this morning, we saw some people coming out thinking that this hurricane wasn't going to be a big deal. They actually try to go, can we show people at home the surf, Johnny? Let's show people at home that surf. Look at that surf over there. Coming in at the pier here in Deerfield Beach. Some incredible images of just the power of this hurricane. As Phil mentioned, right now, we're right in the middle of it.
Rosh, if I just may, I want to go back to the radar because we are in the worst of the system right now, and I want to take a big overview and a tour from Broward County all the way down to South Miami-Dade because things are very, very serious right now. The radar imagery showing that we've got very strong rain moving all across Broward County from US 27 all the way to the coast. Very strong winds, hurricane-force winds all over the area. Deerfield Beach, and I understand that we have Rosh out there with a live report as to what's going on out there right now. What's the latest?
Phil, I mentioned to you about an hour ago that these winds won't stop, and they haven't stopped here in Deerfield Beach. In fact, I don't have one of those meters with me because I'm simply just trying to keep my balance here. There are some signs that have started to come off. Hold on. There's a sign down the street there, a Howard Johnson sign, that is starting to sway. Also, if you're familiar with this area, this is off Hillsborough Boulevard. This is the pier here in Deerfield Beach. I don't even think you're looking down at that sign. Now, Johnny, can we show them the ocean? Johnny, this is the pier here in Deerfield Beach. And the conditions here continue to just worsen here and to deteriorate. We have seen several transformers blow up. So obviously, there is a loss of power here. As I've been mentioning this morning, let me take a breath. As I've been mentioning this morning, we were out here. We covered Hurricane Katrina. This is far worse. We were at this very same pier here, and I can tell you we were at this location for about an hour and a half that day, and the winds lasted for about 45 minutes. Northern Broward County right now is just taking a beating. We did see, though, the sheriff's office out. In fact, we did see a deputy out here. Very sporadic, though. Very sporadic. We saw one deputy trying to navigate the roads here. But we have debris on the ground. We have signs that are starting to peel off. We have transformers that are starting to blow. And let me tell you, it is extremely tough to stand in this stuff. And you know, if there's one good thing about standing in a hurricane like this, maybe it can serve as a lesson to people.
Rosh, I don't know if you can.
Hurricanes and say it's not really a big deal.
Rosh, this is
a big deal. In fact, we were just standing over there, and my photographer looked out at this scene. Johnny looked out at this scene, and he just shook his head. He said, "This is incredible," and it has been incredible out there.
Rosh, this is Phil Farrow. We're just starting to lose a little bit of your signal, but I do want to let you know that the wind speeds are starting to pick up very close to hurricane force winds over Deerfield Beach and parts of Fort Lauderdale, even Miami, gusting up right now to 74 miles per hour. Let's check outside our backyard right now with Alita Loresca, where the wind is just incredible outside. Alita?
Yeah, Phil, we've been talking about it the last several days that the wind is going to be our biggest concern, and we're seeing some flooding along the seawall here, but not because of the rain. It is because the wind has been so strong. It has been picking up these waves, large battering waves along Biscayne Bay. It's picking up all of the debris from along the sidewalk here. We've got quite a bit of plants as well as some rocks from these plants, and you can see all the rocks that has accumulated along the side of the seawall here. Woo! All right, well, there goes my... That's okay, Ledner. Just leave it there. That's fine. Rain beginning to pick up right now.
Alita, I know that since you've been with us, you've covered a number of storms, but I can't recall seeing you out here in our own backyard like this ever before.
Yeah, Christine, this is definitely the worst. I covered Katrina along this seawall, and I saw the flooding was horrible during Katrina, but nothing like this. Nothing like the large waves that we're seeing right now and all of this flooding. So if I were to go near the seawall, I would probably have the water near my ankles right now.
Alita, talk to us. You know, earlier I had mentioned just how that bay out there is such a clear indication for how nasty it is. what a difference just an hour has made out there.
Exactly, Richard. All morning long you've been asking me to describe the scene here along the bay, and up until about a few hours ago it was nothing like this. It was a little bit choppy. The visibility was not this bad. Because of the heavy rain as well as these large waves, we're seeing the visibility really bad right now. Photographer is having a hard time staying put because of the strong winds coming in off of the bay. And we're actually very lucky here because we have this huge building that's sort of protecting us. So just imagine some of my colleagues that are on the beach that don't have the vantage point or the advantage that I do with the huge 7 News building right behind me, as well as some of the trees that are kind of helping block some of these stronger winds.
And Alita, something that you brought up just a short while ago, and you made such a good point talking about all those houseboat residents. Whenever we drive into work, we see plenty of them. I know you've covered storms where you've talked to these owners. One can only imagine what's happening to those houseboats right now.
Exactly. I learned a lot when I covered those stories and how houseboats are supposed to be separated between, there's these big buoys that separate the houseboats so they don't rock next to each other. And sometimes these buoys give because of the strong winds that rock the seas. So you can only imagine that these homes by the North Bay Village area, their owners are being forced out of their homes because they have to make sure that these buoys don't burst. Because if they do, there is that possibility that they're going to come up along the docks there, and possibly those docks have an opportunity to give, and those houseboats that have any sort of damage on them, there's potential there for some sinking. And we saw that with a couple stories that we did back when we covered Katrina and those houseboats. Thank goodness none of those owners were in those houseboats at that time, and they were staying with friends, because had they been in those houseboats, they would have been, are you okay, Ronnie? They would have been along the bay.
Alita, we just showed video of a tree down. We're seeing more damage according to some people who have been making their way into the plex here.
A lot of debris right now coming off everywhere. There's rocks, palm tree limbs. I mean, it's coming down really bad.
There's the tree we're talking about right there, Alita. That's right in our backyard there in our parking lot.
A lot of rocks back here. There's been, excuse me, hold on. Yeah, just a lot of palm trees. And there's actually like a little tunnel right here that's funneling some of this wind. So if I move this way from the tunnel, I should be a little better. But you're right. There's just a lot of wind, not a lot of rain right now.
Yeah, Alita, you know something? It's almost looking like you may be in a situation where you're not feeling safe. And if that's the case, obviously we put your safety first, and we value that a lot more. So if you feel that way at any point, please do step into the plex. Obviously we have the cameras out there, and I don't recall ever seeing a storm hit North Bay Village since I've been here like this.
Or
not
experiencing anything like this, right.
Right on the set, the way we're hearing it, the way we're seeing it, it's certainly one that we could have covered from our own backyard very well.
Let's go ahead and bring it right back in. The reason we're being so verbally descriptive is because so many people are without power, and they're listening to us on the radio. 542,458 customers. That was at last check in both counties, from Florida Power and Light, without power. What you're listening to right now, and hopefully you're getting us on one of our simulcasts. We have 4 of them, so if one of the stations goes weak, you could always tune into the other. Let me give them to you real quick. At 93.1 FM, you can listen to us on Party 93.1, 105.1 FM, which is Hot 105, 99 Jams, and also the Coast, which is 97.3 FM. For about an hour now, we have been simulcasting on all 4 of those radio stations. We are going to be here for you, and we are going to keep you up to date on the very latest information on Hurricane Wilma.
And as we have been telling you all morning long, our home, North Bay Village, is getting hammered. Out back now to explain what is going on out there, our own Ralph Rayburn. Ralph?
Good morning. Let me see. It's 8:35 in the morning, and we're right outside Channel 7 studios right now. What I'm showing on the camera is the WSVN signs at the front entrance there. One of them has been blown over. It's sideways right now, and the wind's very, very strong here in North Bay Village. Our plan was to go out and just drive around, and we had to quickly change that idea because the weather has gotten so bad out here. Right now I'm going to roll a window down just for a moment and show you the Hess gas station. This would be at off of East Treasure Drive there and 79th Street. The signs, the big plexiglass signs are blown out at the very top of that. In my driving, I was out for about an hour. I saw one other vehicle out there on the roadway, and obviously people have heeded the warnings of the media and of the National Hurricane Center, the mayor, and the other people to stay indoors and not venture out. And we'll bring the camera around back here through the cabin of our SUV here to the other side there. And again, our video is showing tremendously strong winds here blowing, coming almost out of the, it looks to be about due south here. Let me clean the lens off just for a second. And again, there's the one of the Channel 7 towers there you can see, and you can just barely make out some of the vehicles there. But again, the wind's moving horizontal to the ground there, going due north right now, coming out of the south. And in my estimation, I would say the winds at this time and in the past 45 minutes or so in this area have been upwards of 90 miles an hour. That's pretty much what we have for you right now.
You know, as unlucky as we feel looking at these pictures of the winds and the water, we're very lucky, according to what Phil just told you and I a short while ago, Richard, and that is because everything is pushing out into the water as opposed to it coming from the water into land. So that is certainly good news. Ralph, I'm just curious, before we let you go, you said you were driving around there for a bit. Did you see any damage other than what we've been showing on our air so far?
Yeah, as a matter of fact, I just dropped a tape off at the station, a videotape. You know the entrance that when you come eastbound on the North Bay Village Kennedy Causeway, there's a statue of JFK. Well, that's no longer standing. The wind was so strong that it blew the bust of JFK. Is now lying in the westbound lanes of 79th Street. The big ceramic pots there, I would estimate they weigh about 250, 300 pounds, that dot the causeway as you come across. They're all blown into the street. Everything is now on the north side, which would be the westbound lanes of the street. The power is out all over. We saw some roof damage to the 7925 East Treasure Drive. Section of that roof was blown off and stuck up in some power lines. And it's just been a pretty incredible morning here.
Ralph, please tell us that there's not a lot of people out on the streets. Police have been warning everyone to stay indoors and to just keep attuned to the different news stations to give you the latest information. Are you seeing people wander out there while you've been driving out there?
No, there has been not a soul outside. I saw one pickup truck that was coming eastbound on the causeway there, just as you pass the sushi bar there, the Thai food place. The winds at one point appeared to be almost tornadic in nature because there was a spinning motion to it as it swept across the causeway there, and at that time it took the letters of the restaurant, the Rogers Restaurant, which is on the north side of the causeway here just east of Channel 7, and it actually just took those letters off, and they're somewhere in Biscayne Bay now, I would imagine up near North Miami. I don't know, I'm running out of words here, guys.
Ralph, thanks so much for that live report. You know, one other thing that's important to point out, as many of us other people listening are listening and not watching us this morning because they have lost their power, is that in a lot of the shots that we are showing our viewers, those who do have power, very few contain reporters at that point, and that is telling in and of itself, because most of the times when we cover hurricanes, you'll see us go from reporter to reporter to reporter to reporter. We just can't do that right now. The conditions are too unsafe.
Let us explain what we're seeing right now, and perhaps if you had tuned in earlier, just a couple of hours ago, we were showing you a blue sailboat in Haulover Beach. The bay out there, absolutely gorgeous. It was like a glass top. Well, now that sailboat is rocking in that bay and almost on its side. We want to go ahead and stress why officials are saying everyone must remain indoors, and perhaps even if you're trying to call 911 for any reason and you're getting a busy signal, there's a good reason for that, because right now, according to EOC, and we heard from Chief Carlos Castillo a short while ago, they are prioritizing those emergency calls. What they're doing is they're checking the severity of those calls, and that, if and only if, as severe as that call may be, will they send an actual squad out or a fire truck or a rescue truck out, because right now they cannot send to every different call because they would endanger their own crews.
Exactly, and remember too, Richard, I was going to say that there's a reason for that protocol. There's a reason for the warnings. There's a reason for the advice, because they know that when it gets to this point, they can't send their people out for that very reason. They're not going to endanger their own lives. Power outages, we've been talking about them all morning long. They're already quite extensive throughout Dade and Broward County, and that is something that also is going to require patience, because remember too that, wow, FP&L is so ready for this. They have 5,000 crews, they have 1,000 trucks waiting up north to come in if need be, but wait, they have to. because while the winds are whipping up like this, they can't restore any power.
We're showing you now a shot out of Marathon where it doesn't seem to be as bad as what we're going through right now. Let's bring in Phil Farrow.
Well, thank you. Well, we know that Wilma, of course, is our 8th hurricane in just 15 months. For that reason, we've been saying that so many people have been hurricane fatigued, hurricane weary. But my goodness, watching the pictures that we've been looking at today, watching the loop, hearing the descriptions that we've been hearing from our reporters, we sure hope that people did, if not heed the evacuation orders, at least prepare their homes, because this has been one to reckon with.
Not only that, Christine, but all the weather experts have been saying this is going to be one dangerous storm. They have been warning us from the very beginning, and it has proven fatal, at least in a Coral Springs neighborhood. We understand that a man was found dead under a tree in his yard. We can also tell you that in Broward County, there's a couple of buildings that have lost some of their sidings, that there is some damage to be reported at the Broward County Courthouse, mostly broken windows, that at one of the structures that went down in Pembroke Park, 3 people had to be transported to a nearby fire station. And here's an interesting point. We were talking about just how dangerous these storms can be, Christine. Yesterday in Palm Beach County, a spokesperson says that a 12-year-old girl suffered some kind of skull fracture.
She was helping her mom put up shutters for a neighbor,
right,
and she's in critical condition as a result of that, and that was way ahead of the storm, Richard. So, yeah, it goes to show you that the storms are dangerous at every stage, even in the prep stage. We've been talking about Broward County, and this being the most direct hit that Broward County has gotten since 1950, meaning that a lot of people in their lifetime have not seen pictures like this, have not seen damage like this, because you know what? We don't know yet. We don't know what's going to be left behind, but we can tell you that the winds have been so strong, the rain has been so strong, and we're talking about Broward County. How about right here in our own backyard, North Bay Village? Talk about damage. Right around the corner, we've been talking about this condo complex. It's still under construction, 360, and Ralph Rayburn had been there earlier and told us that some of the scaffolding came loose there. We've just seen so much and heard so much from right here in our studios, and you have to remember, we aren't close to any windows here, and it has been howling in here, and we have literally seen damage at our own station.
Yeah, let's go ahead and roll that video, and we're going to go ahead and describe it for those of you who do not have television at this time. Again, we're looking at the exterior Channel 7, and what's happened is part of, and that was 30 minutes ago, part of the satellite came off. Our marquee, which welcomes visitors and our employees into Channel 7, is pretty much gone. The picture of Belkis and Craig on the floor, also with one of our trees has gone down, and there is a tower that sits right in front of our parking lot in front of the station. That is wobbling. We haven't been able to get an update on that because the conditions have gotten pretty bad out there. In fact, we had tossed to Alita Lareska out, who was covering in the back of our bay, where normally it's really calm. It picked up big time to the point where we had a scare with Alita. Good news is Alita's doing fine. We're showing you right now a hallway which leads from the news department to the sales department. There are windows that are covered by shutters. Well, those shutters not holding back the incredible winds. In fact, one of those panels buckled, one of them hanging on by just a little bit of that hinge. So here in North Bay Village, we have a lot of damage to report, especially here at the WSVN studios.
And we keep reporting just how happy we are to know that it's moving so quickly through here. Another thing that we're happy to report is that we are, in fact, ready to respond. There will be no delay here. I mean, we've seen the trucks since yesterday filled with the supplies, with the ice, and we knew as of yesterday that Governor Jeb Bush had already phoned his brother and said, listen, there are 14 counties here. Ahead of this storm, I'm going to need you to make a declaration here of an emergency situation. So at least in that respect, we are ready. We know FEMA is ready. They're standing by, and my goodness, I think we really are going to need some of the relief efforts out here.
Absolutely, and as you will remember with Hurricane Katrina in the Gulf Coast states, you know, they received a lot of heat because of the slow response after Hurricane Katrina. Well, this time they were saying, you know what, we're not going to wait, we're at the ready, and you were mentioning the Homestead Air Reserve Base. They had truck after truck just waiting for officials to give the go-ahead, packed with all the supplies needed for after the storm. And you know, Christine, speaking after the storm, we mentioned, you know, the injuries that have been sustained already, and with that one girl in Palm Beach County before, really now is what we need to keep an eye on, because those statistics could rise with those electrical wires, those live wires, so dangerous. That's why even after the storm, we want to urge you to keep it indoors if you can, just to stay on the safe side.
And that's why it's so important to reiterate, you know, even when it looks calm, and Phil has been saying that too all morning long, even when you're in the eye of the storm, that may last a good 45 minutes or so. Folks, that doesn't mean it's over. That means the back end is then coming in from the other direction, and what's more, what's already been loosened from the front end could completely come down. after the back end comes in. So this storm is not over yet. Dade and Broward County right now, Wilma is lashing out.
Right, and you know what we keep mentioning towards the end, once this does pass, you know, there are so many hazards that we have to be aware of, not only with the down power lines, but you know, so many times we become desperate when we don't have electricity, and so many of us have invested in generators. Well, it's important to know, and the health officials have released a news release so that we could get this information out to you in regards to carbon monoxide dangers. You know, it's invisible, you can't smell it, you can't taste it, but depending on the high level of exposure, in severe cases, it can cause death. So again, keep those generators outdoors. Never put them indoors, in a garage, in a room. Even if you think the windows are open, not good enough according to the health department.
Keeping that in mind, let's now see precisely where the storm is right now.
In these pictures, it looks as if something smashed each one of these structures and then squashed them one by one. Folks in Everglades City are trying to recover after Wilma, but many roads there are still impassable because of flooding standing water. Today, residents waded through that water, pulling debris behind them.
Tonight, Governor Jeb Bush is promising to get aid to hurricane-ravaged areas of the state as quickly as possible.
The attitude is that we'll take a sledgehammer to provide relief and worry about filling out the paperwork later. That's kind of the attitude we have in Florida.
Governor Bush visited Key West today as people lined up for ice and water. The storm surge caused flood damage to hundreds of homes here, and many of them are worth $1 million.
Governor Jeb Bush said that the response to the disaster did not meet his expectations, but that now is not the time to point fingers.
I'm going to have a no criticize zone established as we focus on recovery.
Secretary of Homeland Security promised more help is on the way.
We're leaning forward in terms of making sure we have commodities we're making available from all across the country. We're going to have airlift capabilities to get that in here and get it out to people as quickly as possible.
And as ice distribution continued today, some people were recipients of some very well-traveled FEMA ice that actually had gone to Louisiana after Hurricane Katrina. It was not used, but sent back to Georgia for storage, and then was brought down here to Florida, to Jacksonville, then to West Palm, and finally distributed today to people in Hollywood. Lou?
David, despite what Governor Bush would suggest, criticism certainly will be there, and there will be no exemption for FEMA or anyone else, I'm sure, amongst the Florida residents. But the fact is, the state of Florida told residents to prepare for the storm, to get out, to prepare with adequate food and water throughout. I'm not sure I quite understand the level of blame that's rising. I understand their frustration, but it seems somewhat strident given all of the warnings and all that has been done.
That is a good point, Lou. The rule of thumb usually is to have 3 days of food and water and whatever essentials you might have. We are here in day 2 seeing a lot of people already without supplies, suggesting they didn't stock up at all. So very possible people are getting hurricane weary and not doing the proper planning that they should. Of course, we saw a lot of people today who should have still had water and ice before the distributions even need to occur.
And thank you very much, David Manigault. We appreciate it.